tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to Tell You What, the podcast. We talk with musicians about songwriting and the creative process. My name is Mike, and my guest for this one is Canadian musician Bob Sumner. We talk, among other things, about his great new record, Someplace to Rest Easy. Bob sat down with me in Nashville recently at the AmericanaFest conference, which is a very busy week for the artists in attendance there. They play several shows during the week, and there are shows and meetups and parties happening all over the place. So I appreciate Bob taking the time out for this recording. I met Bob for the first time that morning as we sat down. It turns out he is such an easy person to talk with and get to know. This was one of those discussions that easily could have gone for another hour. When the mics were turned off, we did end up hanging out and chatting for another hour or so, and we met up again at Bob's great show that evening. I really enjoyed the time I spent with him. Bob is such a genuine and sincere person. Bob is the latest in a series of guests on the podcast that all hail from the Pacific Northwest. Recently, we talked with Willie T. Taylor. We had Jeffrey Martin. A few years back, the wonderful Anna Tivell. Some of these artists share the same label with Bob, Fluff and Gravy out of Portland, but they all share the same characteristic as songwriters in the primacy of their lyrics. It is words first for these people. Some truly gifted writers in that part of the world, as it turns out. Bob's certainly among them. Although, as you will find out, Bob is also quite particular and thoughtful about the arrangements and the overall sonic approach to his music. Bob is also very humble and generous in his writing and song creation. As you will hear, he has a good ear for the turn of phrase written by his collaborators. He credits Willie T. Taylor, among others, for some of the great lines in these songs. Bob brings up his experiences with open mics and what they meant to his development as a performer, and he refers to the open mic I am involved with. I help host a great open mic around here, and if you ever find yourself in the vicinity of Glenview, Illinois on a Tuesday night, come by Grandpa's place and join in. And this is a great chance for me to plug my newsletter called Hey, How's It Going?, where I write about all things music. I wrote an essay in the latest issue about my open mic experience, what it has been like growing that operation and the community around it. So you can read all about it by signing up for the email newsletter, Hey, How's It Going? It is free and worth every penny. Sign up at tellyouwhatpodcast.com or drop me an email, mike@tellyouwhatpodcast.com. So the afternoon after I did this recording, I ran into another musician I knew in Nashville. He asked how the interview went. I told him Bob was truly an excellent guest. He asked why, what that meant to be a great guest. At first I said Bob was a great conversationalist and a great communicator, but after a bit of reflection I changed my answer to say that Bob was really a great listener. As you hear him talk, see how he comfortably responds to me and always comes around to answering the question. He does that very smoothly, but more importantly, he answers the questions in a way that addresses the nuance of what I am asking about. I don't have to follow up or restate the questions to get to the point of what I was shooting for. Being a good listener is a rare skill. It takes patience and generosity. It is something we can all work on our whole lives. But I have to say, it is a pleasure to interview someone who is so adept at it. When I brought this up later with Bob, he said his mom would be glad to hear about this. So, good job, Bob's mom. Bob also talks very honestly and bravely about his changing relationship to alcohol. I am thankful for that, as not only does it provide insight into Bob's creative journey, but his words may prove, of course, helpful to some folks out there. You should all watch the video for the song Motel Room. It will really give you a good idea of Bob's vibe, the combination of joy and heartache that permeate this particular song, but also much of the rest of the record. I will post it on the episode page of the website. Check it out. Also, definitely listen to this record, Someplace to Rest Easy. Bob intended for it to be taken in as a complete work, and he certainly was successful at that. We talk about the influence of Randy Travis on this record, and if you aren't familiar with Randy's work, do yourself a favor and listen to his old album, Storms of Life, a true classic. It will help you enjoy Bob's work all the more. And a shout out to my old pal Kevin, who brought that Randy Travis record to me way back when and kickstarted my journey into the wonderful wide expanse of country and roots music. Bob will be out on tour soon with the aforementioned Jeffrey Martin, a deadly combination of songwriters. Should be some great shows. Go see them. Invite Bob over to your house. He'll probably do the dishes. In the meantime, please enjoy this Tell You What discussion with Bob Sumner. All right, Bob Sumner, welcome to Tell You What, the podcast. Thank you for taking the time out for what can be a very busy and crazy week here at AmericanaFest in Nashville. We are sitting down at 10 in the morning, which is pretty much dawn equivalent, I think, for Nashville. Because it is so busy, we're here in the morning, so thanks.
True.
We are here in the satellite, Tell You What, Epiplex recording studio. What do you think?
It's state of the art. It's beautiful, comfortable.
Yeah. The arrangement here at the kitchen counter is convenient, don't you think?
I do.
I might ask you to unload the dishwasher while we're talking, if that's all right.
Yeah, if you want to get into that, it is kind of my thing. Just
unloading
dishes. Well, dishes in
the
general.
Whole dishwashing.
Yeah.
Care to elaborate?
I think it's something to do with social anxiety. So if you're at a gathering, that's a safe place to be, is doing the dishes.
Do you ever come up with any song ideas while you're doing this?
Not yet. Yeah.
Your record, Someplace to Rest Easy, just came out a couple of weeks ago. It has been stuck in my turntable, my virtual turntable since then. Congratulations. Must feel pretty good. How does it feel to have these songs out in the world?
Strange, wonderful. But to hear things like that, it feels great.
Yeah.
People seem to like it. Or, I mean, maybe I just don't meet the ones that nobody's told me that they don't like it yet.
I'm not sure many people will tell you they don't like your record, Bob. Sorry.
So there may be people out there that don't like it.
No, I'm sure they all love it. I'm sure they all love it. They should.
Yeah.
Let's back up a bit. Go back to your early days, your youth, your musical influences, memories. You grew up in White Rock, just south of Vancouver. I looked this up on the Google Map machine. Talk about a border town. It looks like you could walk about a mile down the beach, walk across a golf course, and you're in the United States.
That's right. Yeah. If you follow the I-5, say from Seattle, heading north, it's just an hour and a half, and you'll pass Bellingham and then a little town on the border called Blaine on stateside. Across the border, that's White Rock. And like you said, our beach of White Rock, if you just were to walk along the beach, you'll cross the border.
That must have been kind of interesting, grow up in so close to another country.
Mm-hmm. And it was kind of neat because I'm a dual citizen. So my mom is from Anaheim, California.
Okay.
And back when I was growing up, it was a little more fluid through the border. You still had to go through the border crossing.
But it was easier to get across.
It was a little easier. Pre 9/11,
Yep.
People that lived in my town would all go grocery shopping in the state. They would go get cheese and milk and gas
because it was
a lot cheaper.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
You had some musical people in your family tree. Your mom, grandfather, right? Is there music or other influences from your younger years that are still maybe lingering in your music or in your process or what you're doing now? Do you think?
We always had pianos
Yeah.
and organs in the house. My mom's dad was a church pianist.
Okay.
And my mom, for certain, played by ear. And I don't recall if my grandfather read music or not, but I think mostly it was by ear. And when we would go visit them in Anaheim, they had this neat little room that had an organ and a piano. And so they would duet.
So your mom and
my mom and my
her dad.
grandfather.
Oh, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was really neat, and they would sing church songs. And I can recall, a time in White Rock also when they were visiting us, and my grandfather would have been a bit older, and he had this beautiful bass voice as well. Mm-hmm. He was a big 6'4" dude, But I remember them playing, just duetting on the same piano and stepping outside and just being brought to tears by I don't know if it was the beauty of family making this music.
How old do you think you were?
I was at that point, that time that I recall, I was an adult. I was a young adult, but just moved by that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that does to the psyche, but aside from that, you know, genetically, my dad's dad was like a really serious jazz guitarist.
Okay.
So he modeled himself after Django Reinhardt. He looked like him, slicked back hair, really slick man. But he died when I was 1.5, 2.
But it's in the genes.
I guess it's in the genes.
Yeah.
Although I can hardly play guitar, so I don't know how that works.
I wouldn't say that. Did you ever play keyboards?
No.
Yeah. So when did you pick up the guitar, if that was your first instrument?
Yeah, late.
Yeah.
My brother, who I'm sure we'll talk about, he's 3 years older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And he picked up the guitar when he was about 16, which is kind of late, you know. And then I also followed a couple years after that when I was 15 or 16. And
you two started playing together right out of the gate?
Later, yeah. We played, so he, my brother had this band for years. They rehearsed 4 or 5 nights a week, had charts in their jam space was beautiful, speakers hanging from the ceiling. And they rehearsed 4 or 5 nights a week. And my brother is this, for anyone that knows him, he's kind of this undiagnosed OCD kind of a guy. He's very, very singular and focused. He would never let them play a gig because he didn't think that they were ready. So they never did.
Wow.
They never played a gig, and they were tight. They were great. It was all original music.
Wow.
So he was doing that. I was just kind of writing my folk songs. As soon as I picked up guitar, that was what I was.
You started writing as soon as you started playing?
Right away, yeah. As soon as I could learn 3 chords.
So were there other creative outlets before this? Did you think of yourself as a writer or a creator before you had the guitar? Or was it something that kind of just crystallized when the guitar was there? That's
a great question. That's such a neat question. I can recall, you know, I was a troubled kid, I suppose. All kinds of, I could write a book on the stories of the stupid things I did as a kid. I guess, you know, suburban town, drugs, just drugs from a young age, and adventure. Yeah. Mix those two together. Adventure in quotation marks, but I had a couple great teachers in high school. And so I recall one English teacher, and we had to write a poem, and she saw something. The poem was pretty silly. It was about an eagle or something. But she decided that she saw something there, and she kind of pulled me aside and expressed that she saw some talent in my writing. She took that poem and put it into some sort of a competition, and you know, voila! I believed that I could write. Yeah. And I got really into reading and writing. So that probably came first a little bit before writing songs. But as soon as the guitar came, that was what I that is such a great and fascinating story that it took one person to make you have this self-awareness and change the course of where you were going. Beautiful and terrifying, isn't it? Yes, exactly. That's what it didn't happen. That can get missed. It could just get missed in the course of somebody's life. Could be. I'm thinking my previous guest, Jeffrey Martin, who is an associate of yours, high school teacher, probably had that way with some of his students too. And it's funny how it has gone around in a circle for him. Jeffrey Martin has that impact on me. Yeah, there you go. To this day. Yeah, he's a wonderful man. Well, that's a great story, though. So now you pick up the guitar and you're like, I'm a writer, and you're writing songs right out of the gate. Yeah, and I believed in it. I knew that I could do that. Yeah. That's great. So at some point, your brother lets you into the band. Yeah, so then we start playing. Well, you were talking about open mics that you're doing. Yep. And I think they're a beautiful thing. I don't know what yours is. It's a beautiful entails, thing. But yeah, I remember going to shows and thinking, if I could just sing my songs in front of 2 people, that would be enough. That would be incredible, and I could get your songs out into the world in some way. That's it.
Yeah.
Just playing for a couple people.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was tree planting, coincidentally. I did that for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember vividly the moment of playing a song for two people, and they really liked it. So then I decided when I got home from that I would go to an open mic.
Okay.
So I went to an open mic.
I want to back up a second.
Mm-hmm.
Are you playing the song for two people while you're planting a tree? How is that tied together?
No, it was after. It was on our day off.
Okay.
But, you know, a bunch of hippies, guitars.
Yes.
It was kind of the scene.
Okay.
But I wasn't playing around the campfire for a lot of people. It was like two close friends
Yes.
that I felt safe with.
Yeah. So now you're going to go to an open mic.
So I'm going to go to an open mic, and I'm going to go. I'm still living in White Rock at this point, which is 45 minutes south of Vancouver, the big city.
Yep.
So I decided to find an open mic in Vancouver where I'm certain nobody that I know would be at.
I've heard this story before.
Right? So I get a 6-pack of beer, and I go to a park, and I drink half of those. Go to the bar, get another beer, trying to loosen up a little bit. And I played a song, and a girl cried. And these two girls came up and said it was beautiful. And, you know, I guess I needed that. It made me believe that I was doing something that resonated with someone.
How old are you probably at this point?
Oh, yeah, like 20, probably early 20s, 20, 21.
And you had written a lot of songs.
Yeah, yeah.
That no one had heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So then I started going to open mics, and that was the thing. I would just go to, there were a couple that became my home. Sounds very similar to what you're doing. Your community, people are wanting to hear your songs, you want to hear theirs. And that's when my brother kind of noticed. He would come out to these open mics, and he kind of thought, oh, he's doing something pretty cool, so we should get together. And getting together wasn't tough because we were still living in our parents' house.
Let's go downstairs.
So then we started drinking beer in the garage every night, every single night, and kind of started a band called the Sumner Brothers.
Right. So you played with the Sumner Brothers for
over 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about that in terms of working with your brother, making music with your brother. 20 years is a long time. Talk about what that means to you or meant to you as a creative person to work with your older brother for so long.
Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
And just for the record, the band's not done.
Okay. Yes, I've changed my tense there.
No,
yes.
It feels like it is.
Yeah.
And I understand that. And I don't know what the future will look like. You know, he moved away a little bit, couple hours away.
Okay.
You have to take a ferry. Beautiful place where he's moved to. He has 3 kids, and he's playing a lot of improvised guitar music.
I think I looked some of it up recently. Yeah.
Really incredible.
Yeah.
He's so good at what he does. But we do want to make another record.
Yeah.
But he's the older brother. He's 3 years older. You know, when I was a toddler, my mom wanted to get me I think she did get me a T-shirt that said "Me Too." Just whatever he did, I wanted to do it. He's always been my hero. Still is to this day. Had a huge impact on the way I think about music in every regard. Mm-hmm. He was always so sure-footed with our trajectory. So I think we really kind of started playing music around the time. Well, I don't know if it was around the time or if it was when we discovered, but the Johnny Cash American recordings were...
The Rick Rubin stuff.
The Rick Rubin stuff was immensely important to us. Mm-hmm. It's probably because we were kind of 3-chord guys for the most part.
Okay.
And so this like voice, lyric forward music seemed like something that we could do.
Yeah.
But also I think the attitude of Johnny Cash, the sort of... fuck you, I'll do what I want to, also really resonated with us. So it's kind of what we did. Our music, if you go back, is pretty all over the place. It's pretty strange. It colors outside of the lines. And really that all has to do with my brother. But then when you get into sort of like what I'm doing now, I think his influence is still greatly felt, I think, because he always was unwilling to do just something that had already been done, I think.
Yeah.
So he always said, we're not going to make museum piece music. So we didn't want to make country music that had been done or folk music that had been done. We wanted to create art and do something that was ours.
Right.
And I still feel that way. It's pretty tough for me to be interested. It doesn't matter how good the music is. It's pretty tough for me to be interested in music that feels like it's trying to sound like something that's already been done.
Yes.
And I think that is a big influence of my brother Brian.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I can see it in your most recent album, how you're doing things that are from a tradition but are pushing boundaries. So when you started recording music on your own, was there a period of transition where you felt like you had to find your own voice and do things differently because now it's just you? What was that like?
Very much so. So, those records with my brother, there's a lot of, I mean, you could even call it indie rock, indie folk rock. There's a lot of loud guitars, and I love playing that music. It's thrilling. And our rhythm section back home are absolute monsters, maniacs. They're really, really exciting musicians. But personally, I've always been drawn to somber, ballads. The last couple of years, I listened to more Brian Eno than anything else. I listened to a lot of ambient music. Just something in my genetic makeup is it's calming for me to have sort of soothing, beautiful music. So I wanted to make this record. I wanted to make a record where the listener wouldn't skip a song. You could put it on and it would be a vibe and a mood. I don't think I could have done that with Brian.
Were the albums they would jump around
for sure
within themselves?
There would be a couple tracks that would fit into that mold.
Yeah.
But then there would be a couple that were,
yes,
I don't know what it is.
Were you writing songs with him as a team?
No, we always brought our own songs to the table, fully formed as a song with a guitar, and then we built the music up, sort of as a band.
So in terms of songwriting, there wasn't a whole lot different for you.
No.
Doing it on your own because you'd been doing it that way.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your process then. Is it generally you sitting with an acoustic guitar and coming up with ideas? Do you have maybe some lyrical ideas that are coming? Obviously, probably not all one way that these things are coming together, but is there a common way or are there common practices that you're using?
Yeah, always a guitar. So which is why I kind of still feel like I'm writing folk music.
Yes.
Because almost every song, there might be one on this new record that might fall into this category, but almost every song could be played at your open mic with an acoustic guitar as a folk song. Maybe sometimes leaning a bit country, but they're lyric forward songs. In terms of the process, it's a guitar and myself. I used to, I delivered Chinese food for about a decade.
A decade?
Yeah.
It's a lot.
That's
a lot of food.
It's a lot of chow mein. It was always trying to find a job that you could do that was flexible, so you could leave, you could go on tour,
right?
You could play your shows, and it would just give you enough sort of pocket money to survive.
Yep.
So if anybody out there is, a young person looking for a job that's going to be flexible, I highly recommend delivering Chinese food or pizza. But my point being, I always had this guitar, and my brother had one too. And I don't think you'll get away with this anymore. This is 20 years ago, but it was called Kartar. And it has to be like a half-size guitar.
Yep.
And it would sit on my lap. And it was ideal if it was summer months because you roll the window down so the headstock would sit out the window.
So you're driving.
So I'm driving, delivering Chinese food. And if something strikes, I've got the guitar right there.
Oh, funny.
And you would...
Would you at a stoplight? Are you moving?
Yeah, no. It has to be a perfect scenario because it has to be a vehicle you can drive with your knees. Uh-huh. So I had a little Civic, which I could drive. I could turn
with the knees.
But ideally, it's just on a straightaway. And you've got your knees, and you're hands free.
Yeah,
strum the guitar. And I wrote a lot of songs that way.
Did you have to record them, or were you able to remember them?
Well, I didn't record them in the.
Yeah, there's another
no voice memos
on the tape recorder on this trap passenger seat.
We had a whole mobile studio set up.
Chopsticks.
No, I've been a voice memo guy forever. Yeah, I have a terrible memory.
Okay.
I can't remember my lyrics to this day.
So in the car, if you came up with a song idea, you would find a time to quickly put that in a voice memo. That's a pretty good story.
It's a bit different now. I have Kartar, but Kartar is more now for when I'm parked.
I think you should think about making and selling car tars.
Great idea. Well, might be some liability issues.
For the passenger seat only.
Don't try this at home.
So you kind of hit on this a little bit when you said you could play these songs with just your guitar at an open mic. But when we listen to the beautiful production on this record, the arrangements, strings, pedal steel, and so on, when you're writing the song, are these sounds kind of in your head? Like, this is what I am imagining this song I'm writing now to be? Or are you just coming up with the song with the guitar and it finds its musical home later?
Yeah, more so the latter.
Yeah.
I'd like to give myself credit and say that I have this whole vision as it comes. Yeah. No, I'm not Brian Wilson. Although I do love Pet Sounds very much. But no, I think that they more take on form. Definitely a little bit pre-studio, though.
Yeah.
I'll have the song, and both myself, my guitar player, Etienne, which should be mentioned. So for both of these last records, I was living with Etienne in sort of this party house, and it's how he ended up in the band. So we do quite a bit of writing together, which is something I had never done before him.
Interesting.
Still, I'll come with most of a song formed, but he's got a lot of credits on lyrics, and at that time it was really neat living together. We don't any longer. I'm a married man now. It wouldn't go over. But we would often we'd be listening to the same music day in and day out. We were big into Steve Earle for a while, so Etienne would be writing these baritone hooks on guitar and that kind of thing.
Let's dig into that for a minute. You were writing songs for a long time by yourself. Now someone else is in there. It's kind of an interesting change.
Oh yeah, and then his head explodes, and it's a big change. I try to keep him away from the songs now. Now that I don't live with him, but he's so good. He's, how do I phrase it? He's written the best lyric on any song that I've ever written, in my opinion. And I like to think that I coached him through it. It was a really neat happening. I can remember being at the kitchen table, and it's a song that's really important to me. It's called Bridges, and it's the first song on the new record, and it was written for a friend who has since passed, and he was in the midst of a long and terrible, difficult battle with alcoholism. But I remember I had some visuals, and I was kind of and we were writing this song, and Etienne wrote this lyric, maybe the bridges you burn might light your way back home. Yeah.
I got to tell you, it's one of the lines from the entire album that grabbed me upon first listen, for sure.
I can't stand that he wrote that, and not me. But he deserves all the credit. He's a wonderful writer, and he's a songwriter in his own way.
It is a great turn of phrase. It really is.
Yeah.
I'll be right here where you left me. I won't be hard to find. Don't you mind him, that's just my old friend time. And somewhere along the way, I suppose you lost your mind. Lovers come and lovers go, and I have seen my share. The tears are falling from my eyes, there's a river somewhere. And the heartache, it crushed me, and friend, you weren't there. You crossed that line and you found yourself alone. Maybe the bridges you burn might light your way back home.
We're going to get into some of those song stories in a minute. I want to talk about this record, bigger picture, for a second. I really have enjoyed listening to it. I'm going to give a little speech now. It has such a great overall sound. I have to tell you, I thought of Randy Travis immediately upon listening. When I was a younger person in the late 80s, listening to The Clash and Talking Heads, someone had me listen to Randy Travis, and he was kind of my gateway drug into the world of country music. So he holds a special place for me. I think it was your vocal style that brought him to mind, obviously, you know, kind of smooth, confident style that he had, and I think you kind of echo that. But there's a lot more going on here musically than I think he had. You've got strings, some synths. We're going to dig into that. But I was first drawn in by the great vocals, the arrangements. They hit home. But I tell you, it was the writing that really pulled me in to your music. There are plenty of country records with lovely arrangements, good singers, but the songs are written in a room with four people who are trying to write, you know, words that rhyme and that people will sing along to. Your songs all seem to come from a place of truth, either personal truth or kind of the empathetic ability to see what truths are in other people and bring those out. So it's a powerful combination. You've got this lovely sound, circa Randy Travis and so on, with the gut punch lyricism of like Townes or Guy Clark. And I find it a powerful combination. So do you have anything to say about my little speech?
Thank you. You just wrote my new bio. I mean, that's just that's so nice to hear, because you touched on the things that I love so much. Lyrically, Townes and Guy Clark are the tops for me.
Yeah.
And sonically, Randy Travis is tops for me.
Yeah.
Just the production of those records, especially his first couple, I guess, are perfection.
Really?
I love them so much. And Townes is one of the greatest songwriters of all time. Yeah.
So that's why I think it's so powerful. You've brought these kind of two powerful, different influences together on this record, and I think it works so well. A lot of these songs have heavy subject matter. You've already touched on that: loss, loneliness. There's a musical approach of packaging sad or deep, let's say, lyrics with an upbeat musical sound. This was part of what was happening on this record, right? Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I'm glad that it happened. I'm not entirely sure why it happened. I've got some theories, though. And we've already talked about how the songs come about. So, touched on with Bridges, that was written for my best friend of many years, who was in a wild struggle with alcoholism, which he eventually, more recently, lost. Motel Room, also written for him while he was around.
Yeah, Motel Room was the song I was going to hit on here, so we can talk about that here.
I think, though, when we went into the studio, and even pre-studio, but when I was sort of thinking about how we wanted the songs to sound, I had got sober. I came down with a genetic heart condition. Discovered that I have this, and it's called sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome.
That does not sound good, Bob.
That's not good. They say often the first symptom is death.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's kind of neither here. You can Google it. It's called Brugada, and if you Google it, I'm a dead man walking. It's like average age of death is 40, and I'm 43. But I don't think that's the whole picture. I think I'm going to live forever. But I had to quit drinking, and I was a daily alcoholic. I drank every single night, quite a bit. Really functional, though. I always held down my job, mostly relationships. But it was always on the back of my mind. I'm going to have to figure this out. And probably for me, I'm one of those guys that's going to have to just stop entirely. Right. I just didn't seem to be able to find a happy medium, which is too bad, because I think it can be a lot of fun. All that to say, when we went into the studio, I was kind of in this new headspace. So I was not drinking, and I was jogging all the time.
Yeah.
And in a new relationship that was working, that was happy and healthy and full of joy and not constant turmoil and drunkenness. And so I think I was in this place of joy as well. So this shift happened where I didn't want to just pound people with the Townes, Van Zandt sort of approach, which I love a lot. But I wanted to bring maybe a bit more of the Randy Travis joy, at least sonically.
Yes.
I knew that the lyrics, they're going to be what they're going to be, because sometimes I feel like I'm like Jim Carrey in Liar Liar, and I can't write a love song that's just nice because I don't believe in it. It's like, no, there's also the other side.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fascinating, though, that what you just described, you wrote these songs in one state of your life, the basic song, and now you're recording them in another, you're in another place, and that combination brought about the contrast.
I think
musical
so.
Contrast.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that if that turn of events had not come about, it would be a different record, and it would probably just be really somber still, which would be fun.
Still be great, but it's just a different record. Yeah. Yeah, so we were talking about the song. I want to talk about this song, Motel Room. Both of these songs, Bridges and Motel Room, were written about the same person, right? The lyric that hits me on this one is, we were talking about from a place of personal truth. We got to get back the picking in the kitchen. We got to let the music back in again. This to me is like the gut punch line. Someone or something is slipping away here, right?
Yes. Two things about that. That's not my lyric. Oh. I guess what we're discovering here is that I'm a great borrower.
Well,
that's a Willie T. Taylor lyric.
Is it really? That sounds like something he would say. We're going to have to go
back. Yeah, or maybe I'll just Google it. But I can't recall the line of the song, but it's always been a gut punch for me.
Yeah.
And it's on his record, Knuckleball Prime.
Okay.
I can't recall if it's that entire lyric, but
it describes the emotion that you're bringing across in this song.
Because with that friend, and with my sort of friend group, it was such a beautiful and important thing. And Willie T is actually a big part of that. It's like this. I think you mentioned he was playing songs with your friends till 1 a.m.
Yep.
And it's this beautiful, joyous thing. And often alcohol is involved in that. It doesn't have to be. But when alcoholism takes this really nasty turn, and there's a line that you cross, that's not possible anymore. And so with that particular friend, we didn't have that. We didn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
He's off in a motel room,
yes,
or his van, wherever he can find, and drinking alone for a week. And so we're not even able to sort of have that, like, get drunk and play and share songs anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the lifeblood for us.
You ain't the first one to feel that old lonesome. Oh, I know it's hard on you, and I know that 80 proof helps ease your mind. But we gotta get back. Oh, how I miss all of that. The picking in the kitchen. Gotta let the music back in again. Now you got your 2-6 bourbon and your party at 1, and you're drinking alone, and it's 4 in the morning in the motel
room. Well, I don't want to get into the whole story of the video for this song because that could take us down another whole road. We may not have time, but people should watch this video in the motel room. They get to see you dance, and it kind of fits with what we were talking about the somber or the deep lyrics and the upbeat tone of the sonically of the song, because the video has both of those things kind of in it as well. I'll put a link to it, or I'll put the video on the website so folks can watch it. It's really well done. So there are 2 songs written about your friend. They were written while he was still with us. He is no longer. I'm sorry for your loss. Do you feel like your relationship to the songs has changed in some way since he is no longer around? Like maybe the way you think about them or the way you perform them?
Yeah, I think as time passes, there's more peace surrounding his loss. Before the publicists started putting this stuff out, they had asked, there's certain things you do. I write, some thoughts on each song.
Right.
And it occurred to me that I needed to contact his family.
Right.
Who I know very well and love very much, but don't stay in close contact with. So there was a bit of a, oh shit moment where I need to let them know or ask their permission even. Right. So I did that. I sent them the record. I sent them everything that I had written about it. And they were and are so supportive. They come at it with the attitude that if it can help anyone that might be in the same situation, then they're all for it. And they love the music. And so there's a bit, to answer your question, I think now performing those songs, there's a little bit more joy and peace rather than mourning and a sense of loss. I'll never lose that.
Yeah.
It's crushing to lose a friend in that way.
I mean, I should point out the song Motel Room kind of celebrates the friendship as well as the loss.
That's right.
It's well done in terms of presenting both of those emotions.
Thank you.
It's well crafted.
The verses are nostalgia.
Yeah.
About the good times that we had, and they were great.
Yeah.
They were great times.
That's tough to pull off well, but the nuance is well done. So
thank you.
You've talked about this a little bit in terms of the production of these songs. You've stopped drinking somewhat recently. These songs were written on this album before that change. So now you are writing or going to be writing without alcohol in your life. Some artists, I think, would have some anxiety about creating without alcohol or weed or something somewhere in the mix. So how are you thinking about that, or how's that working?
God, so good. It's been great. It took time. When alcohol is that big a part of your life, it's like you have to go through a mourning process.
Yeah.
And I should have written about it, and maybe I will try and tap into that, because I remember the first probably a couple months thinking that I would write a crushing breakup song
With alcohol.
I came down here to Nashville felt like weeks. It was very early on, and that was tough. I remember, so they have the night that used to be at the Legion, the Honky Tonk Tuesdays.
Yes.
Went there, and then they have Stay Up Late with Todd Day-Waite afterwards. Went there, and it was at the Underdog at the time. And
you tested yourself.
Oh my God, I remember standing, because at a certain point, that switch flips and everybody's drunk.
Yes.
And it seems to happen all at once. It's a remarkable thing.
When you're sober, it must be pretty drastic to see.
The person you just had a conversation with comes back up and spits in your face and slurs their words, and they're having a great time. But I looked around, and everybody was kind of arm in arm. And it can be a beautiful thing. And they're laughing and getting more lovey. And I felt like a pillar. Yeah. Of stone, and I just thought, I don't even know who I am. So that was tough. But 2 years later now, like I said, I've been jogging, and I access this. I always listen to music
when you're running.
Everything I do, but when I'm running, I can't do it without music. And I'll cry running. I'll laugh. I'll cry.
That's great.
It's beautiful. And performing music, man. These two. I just did the Bluebird here as a trio, and then I had this hot shit Nashville band. We did these, and I'm smiling ear to ear without a drop of booze, and it's beautiful. And songwriting is is the same.
It is.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. No, sorry, not the same as it was, but the same,
same
the
feeling.
same as jogging and playing
Yeah.
live. It's
There's joy.
it's all there. Yeah. But I'm sure the next record will be different. My life is just so different. So.
Well, that's an inspirational tale you just told. I'm sure there are plenty of us who may need to listen to that for.
I will say I'm not waving a sober flag.
Yeah.
And I've been dabbling with, I've had a few beers here in Nashville. It's not working for me super great.
Yeah.
I don't like feeling foggy in the morning.
After not having felt that way for so long.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I don't need, not everyone needs to not drink.
Right.
But a lot of people do.
There are some for sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not one of them. So
No.
keep your mitts off me. Okay, I'm going to keep talking about things I love about these songs, if that's okay with you. Kind of related to what I was getting at earlier, but another aspect of that combination of things that you bring is how you nod lyrically to the writing styles of classic country, these lyrical hooks, playing with words that grab the ear. In the Motel Room song, you play with numbers in the chorus. You got the 2-6 of bourbon, party of one, 4 in the morning. In this great song, Didn't We Dream? In the chorus, you hit us with kings, queen, and aces, then bookend that a few lines later with beg, steal, and borrow. Kind of rhythmic, lyrical callback. It works so well to grab the listener's attention, grab his ear. Again, many other country songs might use these kind of lines, these tricks, but they would use them as like the whole song, like people who write to a title, right? And then they kind of don't have any guts behind it. You throw these hooks at us with a powerful lyrical story behind them. There's a depth here behind them. So are you working to put these hooks in there intentionally using device, or is it just kind of coming together naturally from your 20 years of listening and playing and making music, do you think?
The word hook is really important to me. And we think about that in every aspect of the music. I was a big Tom Waits fan for years and years and years. I don't listen to him as much as I once did, but that man can write a chorus and a hook.
Yeah.
So I do think that I want to walk away from a song with a hook and
remembering something.
And I also think that I think in terms of arrangements and production, sometimes I think people are crazy with the lack of thought going into their music. It's like they might have a hot shit country band, but nobody's doing anything interesting or nobody's thinking about hooks. I think that's crazy because if you listen to Steve Earle Guitar Town, it's hooks, and they're repetitive.
And guess what? They played them on the radio.
That's right, and that's what I need. That's what I want. That's what I need. Of course, not all music should or necessitates that, but that's the way we think about music. Okay. Kings, queens, and aces.
Okay, tell me again that you didn't write that line.
Okay. I did not. But I'd love to shout out to my friend who did. So back home, we have this thing called the North Country Collective, which is sort of an apparition. It's like it's not quite a record label. It's a few of us friends who just have tried to pool our resources to try and help promote one another.
Yep.
But the dreamer behind it all, his name is Elliot Seaway. I think you'd love his music. It's really, really great. But he's a bit less afraid to use those sort of like strong, cheesy hooks.
The tropes, yes.
The tropes. Like I said, I'm a bit more of a Jim Carrey liar. I'm like, if I don't believe it, I'm probably not gonna write it.
Yeah.
But he wrote Kings, Queens, and Aces, and I love it.
Yeah.
Like it gives me shivers when I sing it. So he only wrote those three, just Kings, Queens, and Aces.
My point was
rest.
packaging with that beg, steal, and borrow.
Yeah.
To me, that's the hook. It's
Yeah.
those two things kind of calling to each other in your brain.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Didn't we dream every kind of beauty where the mountains meet the valley? Yes, we had dreams. All the little ones come running, and them old folks sit there smiling. Well, there were dreams Oh, I swear we could feel them. Some of them believed it. Oh, don't time just slip away. And we had kings, queens, and aces, like a shotgun out of the gates, kid. We set the pace, didn't we? And there was always tomorrow. You could beg, steal, and borrow. Don't got to follow through.
You've got a good ear for the right things to put in your
I guess so,
song.
yeah. Yeah, but he's got those, Elliot, and he has a band called The Wild North. Every chorus is like that.
Okay.
With something a bit tropey, but powerful.
Yeah.
And also, just for our listeners, to give him credit, he's also going to then pour his heart out into the rest
Tell
of the song.
me the name of the band again.
Well, his name is Elliot C. Way, and he has solo music, and his old band is called The Wild North. Okay. And it's so good. We're big Springsteen fans.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, I'm from New Jersey, so.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. Bruce is an old pal of mine.
Okay.
Not really. Not really. Used to see him around town when we were in high school
really?
at the McDonald's and whatnot. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so neat. We could talk about Steve Earle and the Boss.
The next episode.
Yeah.
I'd be down for a Steve Earle and Bruce Springsteen dual conversation.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the song. Didn't We Dream? Well, can you tell us anything more about this one?
Most of the record is either about these people that I've lost. So there's Bridges, Motel Room, and there's another one, maybe we'll get to it, but Is It Really Any Wonder? Mm-hmm. It's the last song on the record. Mm-hmm. And that was written for another friend who we lost as well, written also while he was still with us. But then a number of the other songs, Didn't We Dream being one of them, really was just about a relationship that I was in, romantic relationship for a long time, 6-7 years. We loved each other deeply, but it was tumultuous for various reasons. My alcoholism definitely being one of them, or not helping the situation anyhow. So that song is just about being in this relationship that is deeply loving, all of the love and respect for one another, but not being able to realize the dreams that we both have for our future. So we could never pull the trigger on getting married and certainly not having children.
Right.
Because we were a mess. And so, so many people I think can relate to that because you hold on, thinking one or the other is going to change these really important things, and it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think the song does a great job of telling that story. It kind of hits pretty hard, and I think probably 2 listens in, I really understood it. And that line, "We had dreams, all the little ones come running." That was the line that made me, now I get what's happening here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, you brought up "Is It Any Wonder?" Mm-hmm. That's next on my list here. I find it interesting to talk about the song that to me stands apart a bit on an album, kind of like the exception that proves the rule, and it helps me reflect on the rest of the record. To me, that song is It Any Wonder because of the heavy synthesizer presence here. Mm-hmm. Listening to it made me realize that there are synths kind of here and there throughout the rest of the record, but used a little more subtly. Talk about the use of the sounds, of these sounds on this record.
I thought you'd never ask.
Oh, we're getting to the good stuff now.
Originally, on my first record, Wasted Love Songs, I wanted, those Springsteen ballads, and he always has that beautiful synth pad that really tugs at your heartstrings.
Yes.
And it's on so many of his ballads. I don't know, Secret Garden. It's probably on I'm on Fire. Most of his records have a number of ballads that use that. And I've always loved, and it can be a finger-picked acoustic guitar and still just have that synth
right
underneath. And it's really beautiful and effective to me. So when we went into Wasted Love Songs, that's why we brought in this synth dude whose name is Chris Gestrin, and he's kind of this mythological dude in Vancouver. Some say he's played with Snoop Dogg. I don't know if that's... I've never verified that.
Let's just believe it for now.
Let's believe it. He's good enough. He is wild. He's kind of this unassuming... Well, what you might expect from a synth nerd. He's kind of this, like, very regular-looking guy. But he is a monster. And he brings into the studio all of his vintage synths. A remarkable collection. And originally the idea was just to have him do these pads.
Yeah.
But then we kind of just loosened the reins. And on that one in particular, is it really any wonder? I remember somebody, probably Eric, our producer, going, do we go full Toto? And we all nodded. Yeah, we do. Yeah, let's go full Toto.
The intro to the song is kind of full Toto,
Yeah.
I would say.
Did it drag you under? Are the eyes of the people there? Are they all glossed over? Look out your window. Is it all gray thunderclouds you see?
Yeah, but this gets back to what you talked about, you and your brother, right? Pushing the boundaries of what people might expect.
Yeah, we're not afraid of that.
Yeah.
That song was an interesting one because that was actually maybe the one that I might not play at an open mic.
Okay.
I did play it at his memorial. It is kind of a folk song, but we didn't quite know where to go with it.
Yeah.
So I can't say that we had this formulated idea of how that song would end up. But when we were working with Chris and his synths, it went there.
Yeah.
And we liked it, and we weren't afraid of it, even though it's a bit weird.
Oh, it's cool. I love that it closes the record too. It's it's kind of like, hey, don't forget.
Yeah.
We have just a few more minutes here. I want to hit on live performance for a second, if we can. You're doing a few shows this week here in Nashville, I think, with different musical lineups, right? So you kind of just mentioned this about playing a song by yourself or with a duo. So you're presenting the same songs with different performers with you. Talk about bringing the same songs to life live with different arrangements. Do you think it brings up different parts of the songs? Are the songs kind of malleable and they can change in these different ways? So,
yeah, it's been nice. I've done a few shows with the full. It's 7 of us.
Oh wow!
To attempt to present the music as it's recorded. So, because we're from Vancouver, we did album releases in Portland and Seattle and in Vancouver. So those were myself, my guitar player, a fiddle, pedal steel, drums, bass, and keys, synthesizers, and whatever. So 7 people. And then we did that here in Nashville because I just wanted to bring that here to Nashville. And my God, we got some players here in Nashville that... earth-shattering. Really, that was a really, really fun time. So good. But then we played the Bluebird, which is a listening songwriter's room, and we just did myself, my guitar player, Etienne, and fiddler that lives here, Patrick McGonigal. And then the next show we're going to do Saturday, we're going to do full string band style. So it'll be a bunch of us, but it'll be myself, guitar, fiddle, dobro, mandolin. I think that's it. But to answer your question, I think thankfully, because as I said, they're all written as folk songs, we can play them. We can play them and nothing is lost. I could play them myself or as a duo. The production is lost. And
yes,
I do bemoan that fact. I would love to just tour this album always with a 7-piece band, but it's so impossible and expensive.
Yes.
So thankfully, we're going to go do a big tour opening for Jeffrey in February.
Jeffrey Martin.
Hopefully we're coming through Chicago. I think we may be.
Great.
But we'll do that as a duo.
Yeah.
And to me, that's okay because the songs will still survive. They'll still be presented as they were written.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bob, I really appreciate you taking the time. We just got to know each other this morning, and you are such a great communicator in the way you're answering these questions. Now I realize why you are such a great songwriter. You can get your point across so well. Thank you for being such a great guest. Based on what we've discovered about you, maybe if I showed you a bunch of my lyrics, you might pull out something that will appear in one of your songs.
I will borrow.
I'm not sure if I have anything borrowable, but a man can dream. I look forward to seeing you play later this week in that string band setup. But I hope you have a good week here. Mm-hmm. And people should listen to this great record. If they've listened to this whole podcast, I think they're going to want to listen to this record because of all the interesting things you've said about it. And they should come see you on tour. You're going to be with Jeffrey Martin on the road next year?
Yeah, we're going from Nashville to Toronto late February.
Great. Mm-hmm. That's a good combination of artists.
There's not a better person to be opening up for because, as you know, his fans are there to listen to words.
They sure are.
Yeah.
I saw one of his shows and people were rapt and crying and all of it.
Yeah.
And folks should listen to my interview with him, which came out a few episodes ago. I also would like to point out, Bob Sumner, you are guest. My wife told me this on the way here. You are guest number 60.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you what podcast.
Amazing.
I'm going to be shooting my age here soon with number of guests. So congratulations for that. Thanks very much, Bob.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I'm gonna tell you what, I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you what.